So in honor of beginning Masechet Kidushin, let's just say a few words about the Masechet. In the yeshiva world, they call it by a different name. They call it Masechet Kinyanin, because all the laws of Kinyanin, especially Kesef and Shtar, are addressed here in this Masechet. And we're going to learn that there are Kinyanim that work with Metaltalin and other Kinyanim that work with Karka. We're going to learn about Das Makne and Das Kona, that we need a determined will in order for the contractual transaction to be valid. And we're going to learn, of course, about marriage, about the difference between Erusin and Nesuin, how to effectuate Erusin, how to effectuate Nesuin. Again, there's more in Masechta Ksubas about Nesuin, but Erusin is here in Masechta Kidushin. We're going to talk about a father's rights to a katana before she has shonim and simonim to marry her off. We're going to talk about a katana who doesn't have a father and a marriage to Rabbanim. And we're going to talk about two ways in which a married woman becomes muteres l'shuk, which is through get or misas habal. There's going to be a lot in this Masechet about avodim, about Eved Ivri, an entire sugi about Eved Ivri on Daf Tesvav, and Eved Knani, Shivcha Knanis. We're going to differentiate between a case of Machru Bezdin, and we're talking about a Jew who was sold by Bezdin as an Eved Ivri because he stole and he can't pay the money. A Mocher Atzmo, if someone could sell himself for 6 years as an Eved Ivri. We're going to talk about someone who was sold to a guy as an Eved. We'll talk about Amevriya and many dinim of, as we said before, Kinyan. The Mishnah says, Isha niknes b'shalosh drachim. And the Gemara is going to have an analysis here about why it says niknes and why shalosh, which is in the feminine, and v'kones atzma b'shtei drachim. And she reacquires herself, as far as Kinyani Isser is concerned, allowing her to get married in 2 ways. Niknes, she would be acquired in 3 different ways. Kesef shtar ubiyah, bekesef, beichame omer bedinar ubeshava dinar. Now, how much is a dinar? So that's a long discussion, but basically it's a silver coin and it's worth 1/25 of a gold dinar. And the silver content of the coin is equivalent to 96 grains of barley. So whereas Beit Shammai has a separate din of what's considered mammon for kesef kiddushin, and that's called dinar, Beis Hillel applies the universal standard of what qualifies as mammon in kol haTorah kula, and that's a pruta. Now, the pruta is a copper coin, as Rashi points out here, and it's worth a lot less than a silver dinar. So in that sense, you could say that Beis Hillel is mekil, although it's also a chumrah because he's recognizing Kiddushin with a pruta. Now, there really is no basis in the Torah for shava kesef. And we're going to have to determine, the Gemara is going to tell us how we know kesef, but how do we know shava kesef? That's going to be a discussion. Kami pruta, echad mishmona be'isar ha'Italki, 1/8 of an Italian isar. So the Italian isar was a silver coin that weighed as much as 4 grains of barley. Not, as we said before, 96 grains of barley in the case of a dinar kesef of Beit Shammai. A pruta is thus equal in value to the amount of silver weighing a 1/2 grain of barley, approximately 1/40 of a gram. Bekones atzma begetu b'misabah hayivama niknes b'biyah. The Torah only recognized the kinyan on Yavama through biyah. Bekones atzma b'chalitza b'misas hayavam. We can break up the zika and allow her to get married if she receives chalitza from the yavam, or if the yavam dies. The Gemara asks the following question: Isha niknes Maishna
Maishna.
Hocha did Tanya Isha niknes Maishna Hosam did Tanya Ish Makadosh. At the beginning of the second parak, the first Mishnah says Ish Makadosh, and there's a lack of consistency because the Mishnah here says Isha niknes. So if the Mishnah would have been consistent, it would have said there Ish Kone. Or alternatively, in both Mishnayos, it would have used the Lashon Kidushin, and it would say Isa Miskadeshes, like it says in the Mishnah at the beginning of the second parakah, Ish Mekadesh. Why the discrepancy? Here Kinyan and there Kidushin. And the Gemara answers Mishum de Kaboila Misli Kesef. Here in our Mishnah, as opposed to the Mishnah in the second parak, the Tana of our Mishnah wants to teach us that you can acquire an Isha with Kidushay Kesef. And Kesef, therefore, requires the language of Kinyan. So it's all about Kinyanin. And therefore the Mishnah chooses and prefers the language Niknes. The Kesef, Minon, the Gemara asks now, what is the source for Kidushay Kesef? Gomar Kicha, Kicha Mistei Ephron, like Zerah Shava from Stei Ephron. In the parsha of Stei Ephron in what's called Chai Sarah, it says Kesef Hasadi no Ka. Okay, so first we start with the parsha of Kidushin. And this is in Dvarim Perek Chav Daled in Parshas Ki Teitzei, and it says Sivhachi ki yikach ish isha. And the word is kicha. Uksiv Hasam in the parsha of Avram, when he buys the Stei Achuza from Ephron Achiti, it says Nasati Kesef Hasada Kach Mimeni. Again, the word kicha. And just like the Torah testifies that Avram purchased and acquired ownership on Ephron's field through what? Through Kesef. That was the method of kicha. So to kiyikach, the method of kicha of isha is going to be Kesef. So the Gemara says v'kicha ikre kinyan. And now you ask me, why does it say isha niknes? Because kicha is called kinyan. How do we know that kicha is called kinyan? Again, keep in mind that even if kicha, I grant you, is called a kinyan, that doesn't really justify why it says isha niknes. It could have said isha nikachas. But the Gemara says the chsiv hasodesh kana Avram. So with regard to the purchase of the field from Ephron, Hachiti, it says kana. So we see that the word kicha that started there, kiikach, when it says Nasati Kesef Hasoda Kach Mimeni, we connect that to Asher Kana Avram, and Kicha gives me Kinyan.